Okay, recording.
All right, so hey everybody, my name is Yoel. I am a full stack software engineer, recent bootcamp graduate, and JDHH is my stomping grounds. I'm very happy tonight to be talking to you guys about Three.js. The goal for the intro to Three.js tonight that I've set for myself is I would love you guys to take two takeaways from this. The first takeaway is that you walk away with a good understanding of what Three.js is. And the second takeaway is that you feel confident enough to try doing something yourself with Three.js. I believe that before you begin to learn anything, it starts with understanding. The better you understand something, just the better you could ride with it, pretty much, for lack of better words. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share screen and we're going to hop into it and go through everything. So let's do. Can everybody see my screen clear?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So starting into Three.js, what is Three.js? Three.js is a powerful JavaScript library for creating 3D graphics within the web browser created by Ricardo Cabello, who goes by the alias Mr. Doob. I went ahead and I included his GitHub link right here because we always have to pay homage to the greats. So if we go ahead and visit that link, this man is responsible for creating what we know as Three.js. If we go back into our editor. So he created Three.js, right? This powerful JavaScript library for creating 3D graphics using WebGL. So we have to talk about WebGL and what WebGL is. WebGL stands for Web Graphics Library, and it's a JavaScript API that allows the browser to render 3D graphics without the use of any plugins. WebGL also allows GPU accelerated rendering, which basically in short just means that it's lean, it's mean, it's fast, and it's delicious. You just need to know that whenever you're using Three.js, Three.js itself is what you use to create, and WebGL is, I guess you could think of it as the component that renders or allows for your creation to take life within the browser itself. Um, Moving down, why should we be interested in using Three.js? Well, in a world where technology continually grows and embeds itself in everyday life, in a world where users are constantly seeking immersive experiences, the responsibility and onus on us as devs is to turn dreams into reality. I'm of the opinion that the biggest illusion we've ever been fed is that code is black and white. That's simply not true. Code is every single color you could ever fathom. That means that there's no such thing as impossibilities. It's either one of two things. You haven't found a way to do it or you haven't created a way to do it, but it's out there. And that's just my own opinion. Everybody is entitled to their own. Um, Moving down, we have a link to the Three.js docs, which are actually really well written. Um, I'm going to go ahead and make this repo at the end of this meetup publicly available for anybody to fork, clone, so they have all of the notes and they could make use of it, create whatever they would like with it. Before I get started into talking about the code and some basic definitions and concepts within Three.js, I have a set of links that demo live applications of Three.js. Some of you may know, and some of you may not know, that GitHub recently did a huge overhaul on its whole entire site. Basically like new UI, new design. They added new features such as light mode, dark mode, and things like that. But one of the interesting things that they did is they included a living, breathing Three.js element onto their site. So let's go and take a look at that right now. We come to the home page of GitHub, and right away, we can see that there's this Earth, this globe, and it's moving around. And right off the bat, because I'm familiar with Three.js, I have a good guess that this is a Three.js element. So as devs, we always open up our console. And right off the bat, my first telltale before I even go into inspection is I could see that it's trying to load data resource, and I see right here WebGL. So I know that not only is this a 3D element, this rotating globe, but I also know that it's alive and it's representing us real-time data. So what real-time data is it showing us? Well, first, let's take a look with our inspection tool. I don't know if you could see Zoom's graphic interface is a little weird for me, so my screen is cut off, but you see over there, when I put my inspection tool over it, I see canvas.webgl-canvas.js. Right away, this tells me that this itself is the canvas and the 3D element being rendered in is this globe. So let's discuss how this globe is alive. So we see here that there's these little lines going from one place to another. And every time I click on them, you can actually see that it's a live commit message or a merge message or something related to a repository, right? Then if I go ahead and I click on it, it's taking me right to the commit that happened. I don't know exactly at what time interval, but this was like 4 hours ago. So here we have basically a really cool Three.js element applied on a live site, this 3D globe that's rotating, that's giving us basically a live data feed onto merges and commit messages, etc. So this is like a real live working application of how GitHub decided they wanted to, I guess, give a little touch up, a little immersive experience using Three.js on their own site. So let's go ahead and continue back into whoa, Zoom UI. It is being funny. Hold on 1 minute if I could get back to it. Okay. So we'll go back here. So we saw that GitHub is using this Three.js globe. So where did it come from? That's our next example. It was actually developed by Google's data arts team. So you'll notice a very stark similarity between that globe and this globe is that they're the exact same globe. The only difference is difference of color, animation, and obviously the data that's being fed to the globe itself. If we come back, let's go to the repo that was used for this globe. And we can see here in the README, it says the WebGL globe is an open platform for geographic data visualization created by the Google Data Arts team. We encourage you to copy the code, add your own data, and create your own globes. So essentially, the working devs at GitHub did just that. They recreated their own globe, compliments of Google, or the Google Data Arts team. And that's just one facet of an example of Three.js being used on a website. And the last example is a lot more advanced and a full display of different effects within Three.js. So let's take a look at that, and then we'll hop into our repo and what we did. So this site is a complete Three.js site. It's going to load in right now. So as soon as it loads in, you're going to notice a lot of cool things going all around the screen. You're going to notice these flowers come to life, bloom open, and then boom, particleize. And then there's another flower, a different header, a different section, come to life, boom, particleize, and then the next. So like this is just showing you like how you can use Three.js in any of your projects or in any of your work. Basically, it's a full immersive experience. Everything here is interactable, controllable. You could really play around with it for hours. I'm guilty of doing that myself. And hopping back in.
It looks kind of like video.
Yeah, it does, but it isn't, which is really, really cool. So before we hop into our code, I'm going to go through some definitions and setup that you guys should try your best to just know. If you know these definitions and these setups, you'll literally be able to look at any Three project, any Three code base, and pretty much not feel like you're lost and not feel like you're reading a foreign language. First, before we get into the code and we go over these definitions, I want to show you what we built out for this little tutorial. And we're going to take a tour. We're going to go to the Vasa Museum. We're going to be inside of the Vasa Museum, which is a museum in Stockholm. then we're going to go to Niagara Falls, and then we're going to hit the Roman Colosseum. So if we come here to our index, and I'll initiate live server, you'll see here that, let me make this full screen so it's like more immersed. You'll see right here that I have this sphere that I've inserted into this world, which is this museum, and the sphere itself will reflect everything. It's kind of like a mirror within the world itself. And if we look around, we're actually right here inside of the museum. We can go up, we can go down. We have full 360 view of everything that is around us.
Well, how does it have a 360 view of the museum?
Well, we're going to get into that in the code base, Sensei.
Okay.
So let's go back here real quick. You can look at this, but like I said, we're going to go over it just momentarily. I just want to give us like this little tour.
I see.
So we have Vasa. Next, let's go to Niagara. And boom, all of a sudden, we're at Niagara Falls. There's some tourists here. I'm not sure if they're okay that we have their picture, but we're right here in the middle of Niagara Falls. For anybody who's ever been there, I assure you, this is those falls. Again, beautiful world, full control. We really can do whatever we want, right? So we have this 3D world, and the minute a user hits the browser, we can inject them into this world. And within this world, as cliche as it sounds, you can play God and insert any elements that you want, anything that you want, sign up forms, whatever, you name it. If you can think it, you can do it, and you can put it right inside here. Now that we went to Niagara, let's go ahead and go to the Roman Colosseum. And sure enough, welcome to Rome. Welcome to the Colosseum. Looks like it needs to be renovated a little bit, but it's pretty cool. So I guess we get the concept, and we understand that what I did with this code right here is I created a 3D world and inserted a 360 mirror sphere, or if you guys can think of a cooler name, you guys can go ahead and do that. That reflects the images all around us. And we're going to go ahead and talk about how we did that and what we did to set up this project. And again, this repo will be made available for everybody. All right, so let's talk about, now that we know what we did, let's go ahead and talk about these definitions and kind of talk a little bit about how we did this. So you're going to hear two terms that essentially mean the same thing, and they're interchangeable. Whether you Google about them, read a book on Three.js, or deal with any type of 3D aspect or 3D elements, you're going to hear the term skybox and cube map. And essentially, they mean the same thing. I have here hyperlinked a tool that is going to be a good representation of what a skybox or a cube map is. And remember, they're the same thing. So whether someone tells you, oh, a cube map, or oh, a skybox, just know that they're the same thing. Essentially, here we have an image of, looks like a world map, right? This is a tool that you upload an image, and it'll go ahead and generate you the skybox or the cube map for it. And you see here that it takes this image and it turns it into kind of like this little like sideways cross, right? And so if you can picture a square, and you can picture painting an image on each side of the square, if we went ahead and inserted something into that square, that something would now be enshrouded in this whole entire world, right? Hence the name Skybox. So what we're looking at when we look at our project right here is what you can't see, what I don't allow for anybody to see, is you'll notice that while you have full control to go around anywhere, I disabled zoom. And the reason why I disabled zoom is because if you zoomed out of this element, you would see a 3D cube with our environment painted on each side, and you would no longer be inside of this world. So just a little representation of it. It's also a good link to have, you know, if you don't have like Photoshop chops or anything like that, and you want a quick cube map, you could either use this tool that I linked, or you can just, you know, like Google cube map generator, skybox generator, and find various resources like that online. And if you look at the shape, think of it like a puzzle, right? Like every side of the square represents a piece. We're dealing with Y coordinates, X coordinates, and Z index positioning. In total, every single cube map in Skybox has 6 images. So now that that's done and we understand what that is and kind of like how we're going to be working with it, every time we use Three.js, we need to invoke what I call the Trinity. You could really call it whatever you want. Triforce, the name 3 itself isn't because of 3D. You could actually draw any type of shape you want, including 2D within Three.js. 3 comes from the law of the library, and the law set in the library is 3 aspects: scene, camera, and renderer. These 3 aspects are essentially needed for any type of 3 project that you want to do. Without it, you have nothing. So you have to, before you even start touching code or start making your idea or concept come to reality, you have to set up your scene, camera, and renderer, these 3 elements that are laid out within Three.js. You can think of the scene as a world, and you can think of the camera as kind of like a compass into the world. Without the camera, you can't navigate the world, right? So we set up a scene. Okay, great. Now we want to move around in the world. We want to check it out. We want to do anything. Anytime we do anything of that nature, we need the camera. So the camera is our compass in the world that we create. Then the last part is the renderer. And I know this may sound cliche, but you can also think of the renderer as like the oxygen to your world, right? If you don't have oxygen in your world, nothing comes to life. Without the renderer, nothing that you draw up is going to be inside of your world. So these 3 definitions that's going to ring consistent in all Three.js applications is scene, camera, and renderer. The next 3 things that you're also going to see mixed and matched all throughout any type of Three.js project is geometry, material, and mesh. So understanding what they mean and kind of like what it is when you see it is a great way for you to pretty much understand the code that you're reading and understand what's happening when you see these keywords. When you see the keyword geometry, when you see the keyword material, when you see the keyword mesh. So geometry is the shape of the object made up of different vertices and points, faces and planes, right? So a geometry is going to take in the parameters or arguments of different positioning and different points that then create the shape that you're trying to draw. So we can think of geometry in terms of dev life as HTML, the structure, pretty much. Then we have our material. And material is what you want your object to be made up of, right? So let's think if we said geometry is HTML, then material is CSS. Material is going to take in an object of options with key value pairs, right? And you're basically going to stipulate to it, I want it to have this color, I want it to have this smoothness, I want it to be metallic, I want it to be rough, whatever you can think of that makes up or styles or adds to your shape, which is your geometry, that is what material is. So now we have two things, right? We have geometry, we drew a shape. Let's say in this case, our shape is a circle, and then we made our circle metallic, and so metallic is our material. So now we have the geometry and material. The last part of the puzzle is mesh. Really, I don't know why in development life we try to overcomplicate things by thinking of names that just like, you know, overcomplicate what it really is. But in essence, mesh is just the combination or the joining of your material and geometry. So you have your shape, you have your material, and now you combine it, you mesh it into one. And once it's meshed, then that is a fully drawn object that you can now use wherever you want to use. So with that being said, let me just check the chat log if there are any questions. Sam, are there any questions related to anything before we go on?
I don't think so.
Okay, we're good. All right, so moving forward, we're going to begin. Now, going back to what I just said right here, we need the Trinity. We need to set up our scene, our camera, and our renderer. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to declare it. I'm going to say, let scene, camera, renderer. I'm going to create an initialization function. And within the initialization function, I'm going to hold our whole entire world that we're creating, our scene, our camera, our renderer, etc. So scene is probably the easiest thing that you could imagine anywhere that you're going to set up. It's just going to be scene equals new 3.scene. Boom, call it. There it is. Now we have our scene. The next thing we have to set up is our camera. So our camera of choice is going to be perspective, meaning that our camera is called perspective camera. There are 4 other default cameras, which you can read about in the Three.js documentation. I'm going with perspective. It's the most commonly used because it mimics the human eye, and I thought that was cool. So that's why I'm using perspective, but you can essentially use any different camera that you want. They do different things, they have different effects, etc. The camera function itself is going to take in 4 parameters or arguments, whatever you want to call them. That's also interchangeable. It's going to take in field of view, which short you'll see abbreviated as FOV. And this defines the width of the camera perspective. It's going to take in the aspect ratio, which is if you divide the width by the height, you're going to be like 100% set. So basically your aspect ratio, think about it like whenever you open a project and you want to set the view of something to width 100%, height 100%. Then we go ahead and we have 2 other fields. One of them is called the near clipping plane and the far clipping plane. And that is anything stipulated in the near clipping plane are elements closer to the camera that will not show. And anything stipulated in the far clipping plane are elements that are further behind that plane itself that are hidden. And you'll ask yourself, well, why is that necessary, or why do we care? So I have here a little diagram because I believe I'm a visual learner, and I believe that visually learning is just a lot better. So we have here a little diagram right here, and we see here's our camera, our perspective camera. Here's our near clipping plane. So again, these are the 4 arguments that our camera is taking. Here's our near clipping plane. Here is our visual object. And here's our far clipping plane. And you'll notice that behind our far clipping plane, we can stick different objects, different worlds, different scenes. We can really hide whatever we want outside of the far clipping plane. And so why it's useful is, let's say you wanted to create a world where as a user was traversing this world, you wanted different elements to come into the scene or to come past the far clipping plane. And until that certain point is met, you don't want them to see those certain elements, so you want to hide them, right? That's kind of like how I broke it down in my head, because it was easy for me to absorb and understand. And again, like I'm learning every day, but essentially this is a good representation of what these 4 arguments are and how they look visually like in terms of our code. So if we come back here, we'll see I set up the camera. Camera equals new 3.perspective camera, and I'm passing in the arguments. I'm setting the field of view to 70. I'm setting the aspect ratio to our window's inner width and inner height, dividing the width by the height. And I gave it a near clipping value of 1 and a far clipping value of 5,000. There is one thing that is important to note. If the value you provide for your far clipping plane is too high, it's going to cause performance issues. Depending on what type of project you're doing, it's really experimental. You're going to have to see, but trust me, you will know if it causes performance issues, because it's going to be slow as heck. So just keep in mind that for this last value right here, far clipping plane, if you go too high, es no bueno. Bad news bears.
Hey, Yoel,
Yeah.
do you want to take questions now or wait for questions till the end? Somebody asked a question in the chat.
Yeah, I could ask. I don't know how I could see the chat from here, but if you
Oh, it's it's about the diagram. They're
Yeah.
asking if how does it correlate to what we saw in Rome, in the Rome example that you showed us?
Well, how it correlates is the view that I'm allowing you to see. I don't have any hidden elements because I didn't add any additional elements, but if I added an additional element, I would hide it behind the far clipping plane. And how would I know what position that would be? I would know because I set the far clipping plane to a value of 5,000. So anything above that is going to be behind the plane itself. Does
So
that
would
answer
it
the
be
question? Go ahead.
would it be like if like you had a video game and you're walking forward, and then those other things come into view, like the things that were hidden.
100%. And also think about it this way in terms of programming. If I loaded everything that I wanted to be in the scene all at once, how optimal would that be? But if I set something to be somewhere and then it only comes alive once that condition or that edge case is met, then it really only starts loading once that condition is met. So it's also, you can also think about it in terms of just, it makes sense logically in terms of performance itself as well. Did that answer the question or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of. I was also kind of wondering, hi, Yoel.
Hey, hi.
I was wondering, like, if we look at the diagram for 1 second, I'm
Sure.
kind of a slow learner.
No problem at all. Hey.
And so that visible object that's there. So in relation to like when you see the mirror ball and then you see what's going on around you, like, is it physically like correlating to something that's in the diagram, or is this like a mix of what makes everything that's in the diagram? Do you know what I mean?
I'm not quite sure, but let me see if I could like double back right now and explain to you what's happening and what we actually created. So what I did was I using perspective camera, I drew a skybox. So picture a cube or a square, and I painted the image of our environment on each side of the square, right? And I took this 3D sphere and I inserted it right in middle of my world. So hold up, where's the annotation tools? God, they need to hire me to work at Zoom and like fix this UI stuff.
I always can't figure it out either.
All right, so can you see what I'm drawing right here? This little like beautiful purple line, because I like the color purple.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, awesome. So this square that I'm drawing is our world, right? The whole scene that you see, the whole shabam, everything. Its border is this near clipping plane and this far clipping plane. This red spike ball thing is the sphere or the object that I inserted into this world, right?
Definitely.
God, I'm horrible. Okay. And so essentially what's happening is in response is I created the skybox, I painted up my world around the skybox, and then I just threw in this 3D sphere right in the center of that world. So everything that this sphere sees or relates to is within these boundaries and this world, if that makes sense.
So your far clipping plane is sort of an event, or you've moved along the path until you can see the castle, or you've moved along the path until you entered the dinner party with your COVID. And is that correct?
That is correct, but with a little bit of a tiny paprika expansion. The expansion on it is you can also stipulate conditions. Like, for example, let's say there's a user, let me clear these drawings because it's going to get in the way. Let's say this is a video game and this is my dude and I'm walking across this field, right?
Yep.
Instead of moving the far clipping plane like an event further down as the guy is walking through the world or the girl walking through the world, I can also just add a conditional that if someone hits this point, bring my invisible object into this world now. Okay.
So do you bring the invisible object into your new world, or do you move the far clipping plane beyond the objects that you want to see?
You can do both. It's your choice. You can either have it appear into your world when a condition is met, or as you move along, you could have it render in. The choice is yours. Both work. But this is like more advanced stuff, but this is really great questions. Really juicy. Love it. Appreciate it a lot.
Are they supposed to be COVIDs?
I mean, no comment. All right, so let's get back into the code. We're actually doing pretty good on time. We have like another 30 minutes, and I think we'll be done this in less. So moving back here, you can see I set up the camera and I gave it our arguments, our field of view, our aspect ratio, our near clipping plane, our far clipping plane. Right here, I'm setting the camera's position. And again, everything that we're working with is in X, Y. It is basically like, think about it like a graph and just like coordinates on the graph. X and Y coordinates, Z coordinates, depending on what you're working on. But again, that's deeper than the basics. And so right here, I go ahead and I set the position of the angle that I want my camera to be at. So when we come into the scene and you're in a certain spot, that's because this is the specified spot. And if I wanted to change that spot, these values would change. Then lastly, our renderer. So lastly, we have to remember what I said. Now we have this world, we got to render it. So I bring in the renderer, and the renderer that I'm bringing in is the WebGL renderer, the Web Graphics Library renderer. And it also takes in an object of options. You would have to refer to the documentation to see there's so many different types of ways to render and different types of things you could do on render. And this is basically where you would input them. Really, the only one that I ever use or that I ever really find useful is anti-alias, and I set it to true. And what that means is that for whatever shape that I'm working with within the rendered world, I want it to smooth it out, make it smooth, make it look nice, make it look crispy. That's essentially what that means. And that just comes straight from the docs. Then we will go over here. We'll set the size to the renderer. We'll set the size of the renderer to the window's inner width and inner height. And then we have to go ahead and slap our world on our page. So we're basically just appending the child. If anybody's familiar with, you know, DOM and all that, all we're basically doing is we're basically going ahead and we're tacking on our canvas onto our page. Now, this is gonna look funky and this is gonna look funny, but we also have to add an event listener to handle the resize on our window resize. So that sounds weird. We're handling resize on resize. And so basically what happens is let's say I specify the height and width of 900 by 900. And your window, hypothetically speaking, let's just say is 900 by 900. You open up the world and that's going to be the parameters and the set of everything that you're seeing within 900 by 900. But what happens if right here, I'm a user, I'm in this world, and all of a sudden I make my window bigger or I make it smaller, right? So we have to account for that resize, right? What if someone makes their window bigger? What if it makes it smaller? We don't want the screen to cut off because then that's just going to look ugly. So to handle that, we add an event listener, resize, and we're going to let the width and the height equal window.inner width, window.inner height. And then we're going to set the size, width.height, set the camera aspect, and we're going to call in update projection matrix. And basically, in simple English, what this is doing is this is going to allow for real-time changes to take effect within our world. So let's take a look at what that means. So here's our world, okay? And now I'm sizing my window all the way down small. And all of my sizing, no matter where I put it, it's going to drag, it's going to drag, it's going to drag, boom. You have to do that. You have to add that. Otherwise, you're going to end up with like a little square here that's your world and then a bunch of white space and it's going to look ugly and everybody's going to cry and it's not going to be a good time. So now that we have that set up, at this point right here, we have the constructs of everything that we need for our world. At this point, if I commented out the code, everything below and just left this, we would have a blank, empty black world. Moving forward, I'm going to say let controls equals new 3.orbit controls, and I'm going to tack it on to our world. And basically what orbit controls is orbit controls is another thing that you can bring in from Three.js. Orbit controls allows for full control within the world. So you can move around, you could look at everything, all of your mouse movements, everything. Orbit controls handles all of that, including zoom. But remember what I said, I had to disable zoom because if I enabled zoom, people could escape our world and it would look like Inception. So let's take a look at that. So right here where I go ahead and I make it so that you're not allowed to zoom, let's go ahead and comment this out and see what happens when we do zoom. So when we zoom, all of a sudden, boom, my ball is gone, right? And when we zoom out, my ball is back inside of the world. And now if I keep going, look what happened right here. Where am I right now? I'm no longer in I'm no longer inside of my world. I'm inside of the world of the sphere, which is a separate world. So I'm actually, what I'm looking at right now is like, imagine you're inside of the sphere itself, and now you're looking around you and how it's all like wobbly and weird and right. So inception right there. That is why we don't allow for zoom, at least for the sake of what we tried to do here. There's no need for it. So if we did that, if a user came here and started zooming in, they would be inside of this ball, as weird as that sounds. And if they zoomed all the way out, the ball itself would disappear. So back to the code. So our cube map, I'm going to go ahead and create pretty much an array. And I'm going to say let URLs equal. And if we come into our project, we have an assets, we have Coliseum, Niagara, Vasa, and then boom, we have -x, -y, -z, position x, position y, position z. You go ahead and you create a array of your cube map or skybox. I prefer the term skybox just because cube map always just rolls off my mouth weird and I don't like it. And I went ahead and I set up this array. I'm going to bring in a loader, cube texture loader, to load our pictures. And I'm going to set it to the background of our scene. So scene.background equals loader.load URLs. What are URLs? This array of images that we have, our skybox. I'll go ahead and I'll set the sphere camera, which is basically a cube camera. So it's, this is a good one to explain. So it's what it's this reflection that you're seeing. It's mimicking, it's like it's taking a video of a video, right? So like here's our scene, we're inside of our scene, and then this sphere itself that's reflecting everything is a camera itself. So think about it that way. And again, we have to set the position for it. So I'll go ahead and I set the position for it. And then with everything that we do to our scene that we want to include in our scene, and you're going to see this consistent throughout any Three.js project, you're going to see scene.add, and then what are we adding? And you have to add it in. So it's like a prerequisite. In terms of development, think of it like you made a function and you need to put a return on your function. Must add the scene. You have to add basically whatever you want to add. You're always going to have to see this. You're always going to see this line here consistent throughout anything that you want to add into your world. Now let's go into the material. So
hey, Yoel, people are asking, how does this, does it work okay on mobile?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It works in every single browser. You need to understand something about Three.js. Three.js was built to work in every single browser with that in mind, with that in specificity, or that, I don't even know if that's a word, but like that was like the number one thing that Doob, the guy who created Three.js, put focal point around. So any device, any system, anything that opens up a browser, Three.js is optimally meant for it. So as far as your phone goes, as far as mobile development, gosh, I have a colleague who I introduced to Three, couldn't make it out tonight, but I really wanted him to make it out because he went ahead and he implemented it in an app that he's working on and has it responsive for mobile. So if he's here, I would ask him to like showcase it real quick because like he uses a software called Responsively that could actually show you how it looks like on mobile, but definitely 100%. It's all good for mobile. And there are even abstractions with Three.js that you could use in React apps. It's called React 3 Fiber. So moving forward here, we're almost done. Like we're literally almost done right here. I just wanted to be as clear as possible because I really wanted people to take takeaway and deeper understanding of what Three.js is, and or at least that's how I felt anyway. So right here we have our material, and we're setting our mesh basic material. And remember, I told you the keywords is you need to know material, geometry, and mesh. And so basically our material right here, if you remember from our previous definition, it's going to take in an object, and you could really set anything that you want. But for the case of what I did right here, I probably should have gone a lot simpler because it would have been easier. But basically the material of this shape is the camera's target. So what that means is the material of this sphere right here is the target of what the camera is looking at. And you could see that right here, right? So like we go up, we go down, it's like pure reflection. It's a mirror. And then here's the sphere geometry itself, the shape of our sphere, right? And if I went ahead and just for the sake of it, put box geometry, look at that. Here's the cube. You guys see it? It's pretty tiny, but it's there. It's just to show you like how you could draw different shapes and what geometry itself means in Three.js. So we have our geometry right here, and I did this a little bit backwards. First, I did the material and then I did geometry. Normally you see geometry and then material. So, but basically here's our material and here's our geometry. We defined our shape. We defined the material, which is what we want to be comprised of our shape. And now we have to combine them. So if you'll see what I did here, let mirror sphere equal new 3.mesh. Remember, mesh is a combination of both, and I'm bringing in both the geometry and the material. And now I have my object. I set the position of it, and then I add it straight to the scene, and then I render. And it's good to go. It's firing on all cylinders. Here's our renderer function, where we go ahead and we render the scene, the camera, and you have to render the renderer in 3. So it's similar to how you would render things in JavaScript, with the one added step that you re-render on every single frame. And with that, it's complete. The last thing we do is initialize, and we're good. I don't want everybody to be like daunted by this. This is really like 60 lines of code. What all that you're seeing here is like pretty much like everything else that's added are all of these notes and stuff. But that's just for understanding and for the purpose of this tech talk. And like I said, I'll also make this repo available, shoot the link in the chat, but that's pretty much it. And I'm open for any questions if anybody has any questions or anything of that nature.
Yeah, awesome, dude. Also, you want to introduce yourself before we take questions? We forgot to do intros in the beginning.
Oh yeah, wonderful. So my name is Yoel Morad. I am a full stack software engineer, recent bootcamp graduate, and JDHH are my stomping grounds. I kind of like grew up here. It's my playground. I am also, well, I mean, I guess I won't let the cat completely out of the bag, but in the next few weeks, you guys will hear a notification from me on LinkedIn. If you guys follow me, I've officially been onboarded as a full stack developer. So,
woohoo! Congratulations.
Yeah. All right. Questions if anybody has or anything. Now, oh, now I can actually see the chat. Whoa.
Yeah, I guess you can't see it while you're sharing the screen, or it's hidden in that
it's
the hidden Zoom UI that shows up when you like scroll on the top.
It's past their far clipping plane.
Yeah.
I have a question, if I might ask.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
First off, fantastic. Nice museum you got going there. Very cool. So you mentioned disabling and enabling Zoom, and that if it was disabled, you can go in and out of the skybox or inside our glorious sphere and make it look all trippy. Would that be parallel to changing the X and Y values and maybe moving through your sphere or your skybox, or are those, is that even possible? And would those be two different functionalities?
Two different functionalities, but possible.
Cool.
And if you want, Ian, because you're my boy, you could hit me up on the side when you have free time, and we could Zoom and work on it real time in whatever project you have it in mind for.
Consider yourself hit up.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Somebody's asking if the order of the images in the array matter for your skybox.
Yes, they do. I'm so glad you asked. That's $1 million question right there. Yes, 150,000 million gajillion %, man, on the money. They do matter.
So it looks screwed up then if you mixed up those URLs that you had.
Yeah, I tried to create my own skybox for that big wave that we were talking about, and I
Yeah.
totally messed up on the positionings, and I didn't have time to like go in and take care of it. So like that's why we don't have the big wave there. But I was planning on touring us through it. I was planning on, for the guys, for those of you who don't know, I told Sam that I was going to put us in the middle of like an awesome huge wave, and it didn't happen. But next time for sure, why not?
Okay, we got some more questions. Would you be able to set the visible object from a menu?
Would I be able to set the visible object from a menu?
Yeah,
Can we?
like choose your character.
Oh yeah, dude, 100%. And you can make those characters 3D too.
Choose your character.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you know if there is some way to add some level of interactivity to elements in your 3D scene?
Oh, 100%. People do it all the time. You could have a full menu on there, a full sign up form. You could put
Yeah,
put a sign up form in there.
how's your site coming along? Last time you were demoing your personal site you were working on, where you could click the cubes and there were the buttons or something.
Yeah, oh, you know what? Why don't I just like demo like that little scrap right here real quick? I'll share screen and just show it real quick so you could see. Oh boy. Let's see what we got here. CD. Just go back here. Desktop. Yoel? Yeah, it's Yoel. It's me. All right, so what we're looking at right now is a not so secret anymore. The makings of my personal portfolio site, which I'm using React for, but I'm building a Three.js, basically completely a Three.js site within React using React 3 Fiber. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I'm gonna do and like kind of like using some real-time function now. Let's see. Don't judge me too hard. It's not done. This is load. Yeah. Okay. So we come here and basically my portfolio site is just, you're going to come to this screen and on click, you'll notice if I click this block, it expands. And if I click it again, it shrinks. It's completely interactive. Essentially what's going to happen is this is going to be the homepage for my portfolio site. You come here, you click on this. After it expands, it tears open and it's going to show a particleized image of my face and it's going to say about me. You click it and it's going to render in the about me component. These little boxes are going to be like similar, but it's going to be like my LinkedIn, my GitHub, all your standard cookie cutter portfolio options. And it's just going to be like a nice fully like Three.js React single page application. That's going to be my portfolio. So whoever asked, can it be interactive? Yes, we're not just painting pictures here. This is full immersive worlds. You could do anything that you want. If you can imagine it, you can do it.
Yeah, so somebody asked if you use React Spring for the animations.
Yeah, you could use React Spring. I'm actually using React 3 in conjunction with Dre, and I don't even know if I said that right. Dre is basically, it means 3 in German. It's another package, and you use React Spring for animations as well. Whoever said that, great intuition. You probably played around with that before. Yeah.
Somebody said, what other scripts? Pretty much anything, right?
Yeah, that's right. Anything. Yeah. And for all of you guys, if you're connected with me, great. If you're not, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm a super friendly guy. I'm actually like really normal. I just like food and coding. So if you want to talk to me anytime about anything, or like need second pair of eyes on code, would love to help.
You want to drop your LinkedIn link in the chat?
Yeah, let me go ahead.
Just in case there's people not
Hey,
connected with you.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and do that.
Can you multitask? And I have a question.
Go ahead. What's up?
What was the other? Well, it kind of like two-faceted. What was the projection tool that you were using for this? Where you get the skybox?
Oh yeah, No, wonderful. I'll drop you that link too. And let me also drop the link to the repo so you could go ahead and, for all of you guys are free to go to my GitHub, fork and clone anything, copy paste the code, use it in any way that you want. Like, yo, knowledge is free. Knowledge belongs to anyone, everyone. Nothing belongs to me. Like, go and do whatever you want. Just show me what you did, because I get excited when I see cool stuff. That's my LinkedIn. And go ahead, bro. I'm listening.
I guess it's like if you have a 3D camera, not necessarily 3D, a 360 camera, I assume that you can create your own cube map and then create like a custom world using this, right?
Dude, absolutely. On the money. Is that you, Brian? Fire question. Dude, take your phone and start taking panorama pictures. That's all it is.
I have 360 cameras.
Yeah, dude, you're set. 100%. I'm dropping the link to this repo. So you guys go ahead, fork it, clone it, copy paste it, star it, whatever you like. It's all yours. Belongs to JDHH. All right, what's next? Any other questions? Anybody? Anybody?
I got a link for our next happy hour. So now that
I got a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Hey, man. It's Josue, by the way.
Hey, what's up,
Congratulations on all the success. This is awesome, man.
Oh, no, I'm not successful. I'm still just struggling. Well, what's up?
And the question's going to be perfect then. What do you see as your next big challenge, either in this space, or what's the next mountain you're trying to climb?
Well, if I'm being completely honest with you, I'm entering a certain sector within software engineering, which is automation. And that is basically pressing a button and everything happening for you, or just saying a word. Think Alexa, Siri, all that stuff. So I'm actually going to be working in automation. And so like, that's my next big, like, that's where I'm going to like take my, my flip-flops off and just dive into the pool and pray that I know how to swim.
You got it, brother. Awesome job.
Yeah, thank you.
Someone's asking if you have a CS degree.
I do not. I am what you call a student of hard knocks, a child of the Coliseum. But I am enrolled in CS 50 through Harvard's EDX program. Great course. I'm almost done. Yeah, I suggest it for anyone. It's free to take.
Awesome. Also got another question. Do you have a comment on A-Frame? I don't even know what that is.
A-Frame, is that VR framework? Who said that comment? Was it
Faye?
Yeah. Any comments on it? I can't really comment on things that I haven't used. I'm familiar with it, but I haven't really used it. I'm sorry. I wish I could have been of more help, Ashley. But that's a virtual reality framework, I believe.
If you didn't use Three.js, what else would you use?
Well, my primary language is JavaScript, so I'm completely biased to Three.js. But if I wasn't using Three.js, I would probably play around with Unity, because that's super cool. But it wouldn't be able to do what Three.js does, though. So I'll just put that there.
What bootcamp did you go to?
General Assembly, the assembly of General Assembly. General Assembly. That's the boot camp I went to. I graduated in October, and and it's been one beautiful ride.
Awesome. And
how long, can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, how long did it take for you to complete your boot camp in General Assembly?
Oh, it's interesting that you ask. A lot of people dropped out, and some people didn't even graduate because it's a very hard undertaking. You really have to think about the scope of development, programming, and coding. Not everybody's a dev. You either want it or you don't want it. And I know that doesn't sound pretty, but that's the truth. It's a very hard process. I was initiated by fire, right? Thrown into a world.
You need to be committed, yeah.
Right, exactly. And so my boot camp was 4 months. And I graduated, and I'm super proud of my accomplishments, super proud of my projects, and I'm joining the workforce now. So, hey.
Applause.
Yeah, awesome.
I've been doing computer science since I was 11 or something, but yeah, it's quite the commitment that you go through all of these phases from security, from development, from cloud, and all of the above. And then you see this cool thing called Three.js. Wow.
Yeah, dude. Simeon, is that how you say your name? Simeon?
Yes, Simeon, yes.
Dude, please
Simeon
connect with me.
Abraham.
Please connect with me on
Absolutely.
LinkedIn.
I have already sent you like a long time ago, but you still haven't responded to me.
Oh no. Shoot me. Shoot me.
I found you a long time
Oh,
ago.
called
Dude,
out.
Simeon, shoot me your link.
I resend my request again.
Okay,
Absolutely.
awesome. Dude, I was just trying to defend myself. I get so many people from like,
I wish you, bro. Like I really get you. Like you're in there.
All right, for sure, man. I would love to connect with you. I love your background too, and I love your voice,
Thank
man.
you.
You have a very good
Thank
accent.
you.
Somebody's asking how long did it take to do CS50?
Oh, woo. Okay, so the honest answer is it's going to depend on the individual. You can expect around 200 to 300 hours in total of commitment. So you have to think you're going to have your lectures, you're going to have your notes, you're going to have to go through your lectures 2 or 3 times, you're going to have to go through your notes. You're looking at maybe like an investment of 15 to 20 hours per problem set.
Yeah. Also, you don't need to do the whole thing. Like you can just
Right.
do sections that you find interesting.
Exactly. It's a great course. I recommend it very
That's
much.
the awesome thing about online learning. It's not like traditional CS university. So for people that don't know me, I have both CS degree and boot camp. And the shady thing about the university is you have to do everything. But when you're like teaching yourself online, you can just find the stuff that's interesting to you. If you take a course, you don't have to do the whole thing. You can just do the parts that interesting to you. That's what I love about the internet. Change the
Yeah.
game.
Dude, you know
Um,
what I love? I love that you're my sensei. That's what I love. I'll go on record. If we're still recording, let the whole world know that. Sam is an amazing soul, and you all should just breathe in what he says. He's a great individual and great developer. Beautiful human being.
Thank you.
Was this question curious how you navigated around interviews when asked about having a degree? Well, that's exactly why I took CS50. So I noticed Evelyn, if I'm saying that correctly, I noticed a weakness in my resume was that I don't have any CS background. So my rebuttal to that is, look, I may not have given 4 years of my life to CS, where after that I would have to spend another 2 years learning how to actually program, but I went ahead and I got certification from Harvard in computer science. That's my rebuttal. So that's me plugging in my hole. That's my
Are
answer.
people asking that question in interviews?
The answer is no. I've only been asked that once,
Yeah,
and
that's
it didn't even matter because the truth is, Evelyn, what matters is your coding ability. As long as you know how to code and you understand things well, that is all that matters. Nothing else.
yeah. That
Yeah.
seems like a weird question, especially these days to ask in a
Yeah.
interview.
Out
Um,
of out of like all the interviews that I went to, it was only like one, so it was like super rare, but pretty much, yeah.
To add on to that, my friend that has a degree but not in computer science just got hired at Zillow, and like he doesn't have a boot camp. He just knows how to program. But yeah, it's all possible. You just gotta
Yeah.
be hungry for knowledge.
Yeah.
yeah.
It takes a really long time to cultivate the skills of a developer, right? Our skill set is hard to acquire and hard to learn. And what you need to know is as long as you have a profound understanding of what it is that you do, and as long as you can code, you're set because that's all that matters. That's all people are looking for. That's all people want. It doesn't really matter what background you have. What matters is can you code?
And it matters that you're not an asshole.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Be a lovable person. Spread love. Be humble. Give gratitude. Pay respect. 100%.
Um, I just want to announce the next happy hour. So now that I don't have a full-time job anymore, I've been experimenting with different happy hours because traditionally we've only been doing the AMAs on Saturdays. So now I don't work during the weekdays. So I started making weekday JDHH meetups. So the next one is on Monday. We're gonna try project showcase. So just people from the community. That's the link for it. We got Josue. If he's still here, he's gonna present something. And hey, and Danny Reyna, I think he was here too. I thought I saw his name in the
Oh,
chat.
awesome.
I don't know if he's still here. And Cynthia Eddy, I think I saw her in here too. So those people said they were going to demo something, and then we'll try to stick to about 1 hour. And then if we have time after people just demo what they've been working on, other people can, whoever wants to demo stuff. It's just for us to hang out and like show each other like what we're working on, so we can just get ideas. I think you get ideas from what people are working on, and it's good practice to be able to like explain like what you've been working on, because I think that's a common question in interviews. At least at Lyft, that's how we started every interview, is tell us about a project that you've been working on. So it's good practice to just demo and explain and see what questions people ask, and yeah. So
Sam,
we'll try that out on Monday. What is that?
When I'm done with my little Raspberry Pi project, and if I can get a domain for it, I would love to showcase it. So
Yeah.
people can send a request to it, and I'll pop out some binary.
Yeah, that's exactly what that meetup will be for, stuff like that. And then yeah, let's see. I think Hale is also doing something. She bought like these like hardware buttons and stuff, connected it to her Raspberry Pi, I think. I don't think she's here tonight though. But she'll be here Monday. And then next Saturday we have we're back to the AMAs. We took is that next Saturday? January 9th. We have an App Academy career coach doing an AMA. So, and you can just check the meetup. We got a bunch of stuff scheduled. We probably will take a break towards the end of the month because I'm moving to Tulsa, and I don't know what my internet situation is going to be until I get settled. And I don't know how long it's going to take me to get settled. I'm just going. I don't even know where I'm going to stay yet. I'm just going to go stay in a hotel and Airbnbs and stuff. So, yep. Anybody else have any questions before we wrap it up? That's it. Well, thanks again, Yoel, for the intro to Three.js. And yeah, just if anybody has questions you think about later, you can always just pop in the Slack. I'm in there all the time, as you can tell if you come in the Slack. Okay.
Well, I want to say Happy New Year's, everybody. And thank you, everybody, for coming out. And I feels like so humbled. You're all awesome. I love you all. All right.
You're awesome too. We love you all.
All right, cool. Thank you, guys.
All right. See ya.
See you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Yoel.